Yes, we are live. We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you warm greetings, massive greetings from the TNN, then and now TV Media Empire. Today, now the 17th of February, it's a Friday, 2023. And me where they talk to now, me where they present this program, I mean, name Prince Emil Chroma, a familiar face, obviously, now the platform. And obviously, this is an unusual time, both in the timing of we program, because normally we can do a late afternoon, very late in the afternoon, mostly in the evenings and nights. But obviously, there are many things ongoing in our country, which we want to talk about briefly. And it's incumbent upon we for lead that conversation day, and this is not the hub of the conversation, the then and now TNN Media Empire. You see, in terms of mainstream media, they've become a little bit mute. I'm not saying them all. The vast majority, because anyway, they are mostly either controlled by government, so they become the pawns or lapdogs of the government of the day, or at the same time, then one they will try for being independent of the government or the authority, I should say. They are muzzled, intimidated, and on some occasion, then they jail them, bastardize them, and etc. And the seriousness of safety therefore come into being. Now that make people like a way they operate independent media, social media, devoid of them connections than they, and under them banner than they, we able for say what we want to say without fear or favor. All we want for do now for continue for talk about we country. Okay, we all know this by now. So waiting to go on in the annals of social media is we are having a honest conversation on the direction in which we country they go. And as we speak now, there is so much news, and the news is so fluid that we're not able to catch up, with the live news. So now follow the follow because it's happening in every corner. And one of the most prominent news of the month, the week, or the entire beginning of this 2023, now elections, which is looming. And we know how serious election can be in every country, but how they conduct themselves is very important. Therefore, I say, if you watch, those of you where they follow me on Twitter, you will see one of me release, I think, saying that this morning or yesterday says, democracy is not only about elections. And this is not something where we need for know. And governments with an S need for also know and practice this. Is about procedures, the principles, the practices, what to embody this process what we call democracy. So it's not only when we go to elections, because if you don't prepare a fair ground, an opportunity, the rule of law, justice, equality, equity, it then becomes a problem, when that day itself reach. And especially if you try for manipulate issues and they use, the assets them where they to your advantage against another, then kind of things they are not they go down well. Such as things that we don't see and hear, and especially on this platform, me and my good friend, Chairman of Africanist Press Bar, don't talk a lot, and on your own don't talk a lot about state capture. These are the elements of state capture we see they kind of play out. But today we want to talk little bit, about where we are with the APC, All People's Congress, then convention. There's a lot ongoing. Like I said, the situation is kind of fluid. Injunction, police clearance, withdrawal, endorsements, declaration. There is so much ongoing. For help we for understand this today, we get a guest. He's running late, but I tell you now, this is a short program just for you an update on waiting to come. This is why on the TNN, when at the hub of the conversation, we are sincerely advising on not for touch that dial because there's more interesting things. So come. So once again, welcome to all and massive greetings from the TNN TV media empire, the hub of the conversation, where all the equation them, we try to square them up and produce a news where definitely is independent and objective. And one way we people them go really love for you. We don't make decisions. We only put out, the information out there and una can make up on our minds. But we want way una to make up on our minds for do something is based on informed choices. So, like I say again, we want to talk a little bit about APC and the convention, the road to the convention, and we get with brother. We suppose for can help we for understand where they are today in terms of the process, both the lower level elections, where they are now, the process itself, we sort of don't trigger some kind of a backlash because obviously in an election you go get people we're definitely not satisfied on all levels, whether in a ward, constituency, district, and regional, before national, and all of that. Definitely along the way, you will get people that will definitely get problem. Mr. Arun Kamara, if you watch the program, I'm live now, my brother. I don't know what you want anyway. Hang on, let me hear what this brother got to say. Arun, how are you? Yes, Arun, I'm aware. Many thanks for that information. I put out that information about 2 hours, 3 hours ago. Get them from the source. But as things are very fluid, the possibility for let it change. But yes, but many thanks for that. I'm live now, yeah. So help me share. Thank you very much, New York. Bye bye. Thank you. Okay. Obviously now, so I can see on this one when I live information they come, but information obviously. We don't get them some 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago, and we don't put them out there. And we get sources them on the ground. But back again to what they say. But let me tell you, brother, thank you very much. Now, so different information they can come. But what we can try for do, we need to rush into breaking news because breaking news now in the cage some man, and then where you go look and find themselves naked and then credibility become then questioned, and you got no one else to blame but yourself. So we need to rush into that. Anyway. Back to the conversation. So we get this with brother he's a professional in many respects when it comes to statistics. This is not area where he don't work. I believe in a junior level, he understand the back and forth of them, understand census, he understand population count, therefore related to census, he understand boundary delimitations and constituency creation, and you name it. So now things the way you understand. And we need to understand, say, all of these things are twin to the process where they happen now and therefore happen going forward. This is a kind of process. It's the democratic process that I'm talking about. So it's not only about elections. It's a process where they take place. When you trigger the machine, that process, they begin to work. But long before you even trigger the machine for this particular process, where they lead to 2023, we don't heighten tension in the country, then obviously, it's not only about elections. So the brother also they now some committee them we get for do with them. Some of you are going to see the flyer obviously, so una know the guest already. Some of you may be familiar with him, and some of you may not. Some of you are not familiar with this story now for una. So they can't help you to understand exactly waiting the on go. Injunction. Remember, I said there's much to talk about. So even though there's been clearance for the convention for go on, because we know the convention at some point has to go on. This is why we say democracy not only about elections, it's a process. So this process they lead to elections. So if you begin for bar the process, begin for cause yuki, so cause with the process, either directly or indirectly, or they use proxy them, here for dismantle or disembowel or whatever term you want for use, but when they hamper the process, obviously you are tampering with the democratic process, which is the will of the people. And at the end of the day, the will of the people is for prevail, and it should prevail, and it will prevail. This is the bottom line. So this brother can't help for make clear we understand where we are, especially with the ward elections. We do understand a lot about the ward elections where we are, but the technicalities as to how it get for lead we to where the party they head is something where the nation need for understand, because this also involve people on the other side of the political argument, i.e. the government. Of course, the government is concerned because this party now impose a single threat to the existence. And when I say existence, I talk about in government, in governance. I don't mean, here like for, delete or pull and come all together in existence, but in power. This All People's Congress does pose a threat, and everyone knows this is no secret. And when I say everyone, I think I need to eat some of my word back, because you absolutely get people that will believe that they really do believe. Some is complete disinformation, misinformation, and you get those waking provide the disinformation, and you get the one that waking swell around, hook, nail, and sinker, and believe waiting a year from the others without doing their own evaluation, their own analysis for find out what is what. But there's a lot ongoing. So activities and camera and the international press, the bloggers, vloggers, everybody is focused on McKinney. Okay, attention not really the Freetown. It's McKinney. And just like when the SLPP began theirs, of course, focus was there. But then the tension within the APC, both within and without, has created that picture where everybody now want to see what obviously get for be the outcome. And this outcome, now a delegate conference where eventually get for go elect. Remember, say the S has been omitted as per previously. Now, if you omit, you left with elect. A flag bearer, this is important. And the flag bearers are many. We don't see few declarations. One of the man them where they now the front line of these endorsements and flag bearership is that of Dr. Wilson Samura Kamara, the much vaunted name, talked about name. But having said that, there are others, and this is a process. Remember, 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago, when the APC went to convention, there were hopes and aspirations of many candidates or aspirants, if you can rightly use the word. They were hopeful, and so were their followers. Some of them know, and later on, some of them at the last minutes, they know exactly, because this was a well-kept secret from even some of those close associates or aspirants at the time. But others managed to get wind of the news. But we know the last minute to time, now in most people get to know the news that their favorite candidate, their favorite aspirant will not be one. Could history repeat itself? The favorite and front runner at this time is none other but Dr. Wilson Samura Kamara. This is a fact, not an opinion. It's a fact. But going back 5 years, now the analogy Dande, there were more popular, much vaunted aspirants whose names were all over the place with all kind of mantra. The apprentice, beautifully said, that have been an apprentice, here for like the better part of 11 years. So would that best for left the motor car with if the driver don't reach in retirement age? Not to that person, the way they teach all the techniques, then we understand the problems of the vehicle and the passenger, the way they can carry, and the roads, the way they can traverse. Obviously, that made a lot of sense. But political calculation can be wrong. This is political mathematics, never precise. So you see why we need for left room, for surprises. Give or take, 10 there, 10 there, 10 minus 10 plus. You can't be actually sure until the final whistle is blown. We can take that to the United States elections, the recent elections. Yes, it was well fought, but Donald Trump was so popular. It was so popular that a lot of people thought that he was going to be the winner. A lot of media pundits, senior media pundits, veterans in journalism, in blogging, bloggers, well-known internationally, that have got millions, multi-millions of followers, people that will actually listen to them religiously, come out and stake their reputation because this is what they thought, and then do the mathematics and the calculation. This is why I say the mathematics and politics is never really precise. It's never really concise. It's fluid. It flow all of the time. By the time we sleep and grab tomorrow, the calculation has become different. If you know they follow, you get lost. But for now, Dr. Samora Kamara are the front runner. Will anybody else overtake him? You get few others. Very popular with the populace. Very popular. But this is where politics can be stupid. Because now machination at the background, you get people that actually where they influence the situation. This is why we can actually see tensions they mount on a level where they reach boiling point sometimes. And when you reach boiling point, you see all them kuskas there where they happen all around the place. Some of them are not directly the party itself doing it. It's invincible hands for make you appear ugly. We saw this in the last elections. People wear red vest, they come to money, they make this is it and what have you. When they say that did not actually happen, but we not say propagandists then also went along and do similar things as such. You get people that like Dr. Kaifala Maran. Dr. Kaifala Maran are one of the men that we get a very good public record, both politically and morally. He's got very good, but of course he's a human being and he gets faults of his own. But when we talk about politics, we talk about based on actions, based on policies, based on what you've done and what you can do, because now that basis then you run on. So when you get experience, you just like say where you go look for work, you get for explain yourself, because they ask you about your work experience, whether relevant to the work where you go look for, or what you will contribute as per the basis of your experience, just work-wise, and waiting are you discipline them, and etc. etc. So yes, you get man like Dande, and it's really appealing to the public as well, to the national psyche. This is something that we know again because we've done our calculation. And saying this means that he cuts across, because you can come from one part of the country and then other people on the other side of the country, although not one Sierra Leone, but we know say there's a political divide. This is what I mean. Other people then from across the country can equally embrace you and say, well, this is the candidate that belong to the middle. You also get people like Dr. Almami Petito, okay? A fine gentleman. And when I say fine, I mean by characteristics as we know him, okay? Into serve the government. But of course, there were a few things that happened, and in government, few things always happen. But I know him. I've met him a few times. I've been in his company. And I know that he's a fine and true gentleman, and he's a God-fearing man. This is the thing. So you see, and a few more candidates. So what happens is not a done deal until it is a done deal. The Americans then say it's never done until the fat old lady stops singing. There we are. So back again into convention and boku yuki and sonko. Man, they don't prepare. Of course, a lot of people are not left from Usai Midin and the UK, who are all APC people, gone down to participate in the process. Good luck to them. I hope they play their cards, right. While we wait for the brother, let me say a few things. And if I can help with for shape this audio, this video, please. This video is also being recorded, and we'll release the live recording shortly. We get a decent number they watch right now live, about 90 people. I think it fluctuates between 90 and 94. But certainly we can double this number. So they ask, can we please share this thing? Because this should be of great importance at this particular moment when history is being made. And like I say again, focus de Namakeni. From what we know is the convention is going to take place. It's going to take place. And why? Because you cannot stop the will of the people. This has been ongoing. And even the blind can see that this is not an ordinary process. We cannot make the judiciary a more laughing stock than they already are, trying for clean up their image, which they've been doing. Because then issues of them kind of, and I can make the judiciary appear for be so compromised, because there are people in places, in higher places, who are so desperate for the waiting they want for play out, that because they get influence and sway over the judiciary. Remember when they talk about democracy, and this now an arm of the state, the government, we're supposed to act as a co-equal to others. and stand in the center in behalf of the people for dispense justice, fair play, open ground. And for many, many months now, there have been controversy after controversy. And when George Fisher, and this is laughable, when George Fisher put out in how do you call them again, in directive at the APC and tell them how they for govern themselves going further to the process that they are inching ever so closer to, with less than 24 hours to go, and give them a design. Say, this is what you have to follow. Then try to follow that, and you have to blame the All People's Congress as well, because instead of them come together and try for out that process, they never did. But again, they got caught up in the design that was designed for them, because you expect a particular outcome based on your design what you put out there. And that design was to see them at loggerheads, not peace, not at all. So after a while, the justice, they talk about Justice Adrian Fisher, all due respect, instead of it coming revise that directive the way we not put out as it been supposed to do, instead it come is scrap that one day. These are the kind of laughing stock they talk about Fambulem. And these are all just facts. Let's get it straight. Because then 19 there, they go down as a bad time now in history. It's recorded already. And history students will be taught these things in the future, probably long after we are all gone, or before we even go. Probably they go begin teach that, because this is important. It's a learning process from those who eventually will come and take over. Instead of organize that original directive wave being put out, as EB say it go do, instead it come and scrap that day and redesign a completely new one and throw them back at the All People's Congress. The first one been full of ambiguities. So was the second one. But where does it all end? It can't just continue. You know, you hold a nation of 8 million plus more people. Apparently, this new census don't bump that population self, because some areas we understand say they don't become fatter and bigger than Freetown. Bo, Kenema are now bigger than Freetown. And other areas then that were predominantly more populated than these areas. But this is the new reality. So having said this, the justice come and give the APC a new design. And I ask the question, how long this will continue? Because you can't continue for all 8 million people to ransom when a process supposed to play out. Not even in a section, not even in a district, not even in a region. And they talk about nationally. And people hopes and aspirations are on this. And remember, the party don't come up from a long struggle, because waiting the SLPP been don't do, they been don't hold the convention, don't elect the leader a long time ago, and then deputy. The president just endorsed in deputy this BNTM. We create another, talk about Dr. Kande Kole Yumkela, who seems to have been left out in the cold. Although we still believe that a deal will be done, has been done, and we go yeri at some point what that deal is. Obviously, he's a smart man, and people they say, well, the vice presidency, but we leave that for a different program on another day, even though we'll talk about it this few time. But here is the thing. 2 years ago, I believe, I hope I get this date right. Remember, I said the All People's Congress be not prepare for convention. Prepare for convention. This is how nasty the game of politics can be. They organize their convention saying, well, this is the day. People then begin move on towards the convention center because it was a matter of days. Market people, them, business people, them, people that were based on the convention site, all over that perimeter of the place and beyond, because you got flocks of people coming, which is a good time for that 1 week or 2 weeks, whenever I go last, because I think that 3 days, but people like don't come before and people like can stay after. And we know say it can take 2 weeks for let it clear off based on past experience. So then they bring commerce, then they bring business, and the whole place they flourish during that period. You have to imagine that. So this is participatory democracy. And that was denied of the people, again, because of the same politics. where I can sometimes call politics with a capital T. Then get for council that one old program day, even though the program in effect, the convention in effect had started. Since then, there has been back and forth. But analysts like us, many of us, know say that process they will eventually take place. The if and the but is the nature of the timing. Will it disadvantage the party much to the advantage of the other? We now give credence to theories out there on why this is ongoing. Because if you get for advantage one side and disadvantage the other side, you get for ask, what is in it for the advantage side? Will the advantage side be the one who is machinating this in the background? But of course, there is a propensity and a possibility for let that happen, because why? You've got a tool of state at your dispensation. And we know how powerful the executive can be. Juxtapose the position of Bio President Julius Maada Bio now with that of Ernest Bai Koroma. The same thing will have happened. They all manipulate the system to their advantage, not just the farther that they can go, than in the measurement. Some can be really desperate, and the actions can be so obvious. But here is the thing. Elections without fraud can run on the basis of your accomplishments. Because when you hit the road, it is what you have done for your people. What have you done for your people? Now, let me go, whilst we still wait for this young man, let me dwell on President Bio in 5-year term a little bit, if una can permit me. And please help for share. This young man will forget for this particular interview. Right now, as we speak, he's very busy and they count ballot papers. You know, say the process still the ongoing. Ballot papers has been counted. It ain't at some junior staff level. So a very au fait with the kind of business they are. This is why we call on there, because on the then and now TNN TV media empire, we only they call astute minds, people that where the analysis is astute. These are the kind of people that we call here for help we for digress, for help we for understand, for help we for analyze, evaluate, and assess information the way we get for put out there for let we people that make decision. This can only be heard on the TNN TV media empire. On the 17th day, it's a Friday, 2023, February. I am Prince Emil Krumah. They come back with the second half for touch on President Bio in 5-year term. Don't touch the dial. So far, like I mean, they say, when they hit the road, we know say President Bio on the road and he started in campaign a long time ago. The president beginning campaign. If we remember back one time ago, Swazi, there was an out, where fire been burned down Swazi one time, and we for understand the significance of Swazi in that constituent part of the country in Freetown. These are key people, and that union day is very, very key. If you get them, you don't get a solid base we can help you for take certain parts na Freetown, the capital. So if you remember, some fire accident been take place there, and it took quite a long time for people and forget compensation. Me believe in the President Bio beginning campaign. But back again, you see, in politics, this is exactly what you do. You run on the basis of what you've done for your people. Now then, when they talk about tangibles, not to, perception, or I want to build a bridge. How do you build the bridge? Or is the building the bridge, is it feasible? Can you really actualize them? How to build a bakery? A very good idea, but probably not a well thought out idea from the beginning. I don't know. I'm still trying to read into this. A bakery, it costs 2 million. And 30 that bakery has not been built. But me understanding is about the 2 million. The government can afford 2 million. So what really happened? You see, this is where you find brilliant minds for can analyze. Because again, in my opinion, we get small and medium enterprises na salon boku. And in terms of bread baking, this is an industry where they flourish na salon. We've been baking bread for like donkey years from any small other country. Day. We get bakery there where they produce fine bread them. Red Lion, Alosak, I don't know whether the one at Saola will be small. Also Saola itself, but Africanos Road. I think Jamil side we get a bakery. They go buy bread, not hot bread. Well, what do they call baguettes? Yeah, this will be referred to as a baguette. That's what they used to produce there. So you see, you get a small and medium type enterprises then. Yeah? How can you bring then, that kind of bakery? You see, how for balance the act now, the thing where they can't swamp all the small time businesses there. And remember, this is the lifeline of many a people. And not only those that are owners of the factory or the bakers of the factory, remember they also produce job for them people and they, but forget about them job then they say, because maybe when that new people they come, they can absorb them people and we get a job. But what about the people that we own the bakery, where now they can die as a consequence of this all multi-faceted bakery where they can bring come, where they can suck in all the smaller bakery them. So what are the family of these people and we depend on them? School picking them, we depend on them, daddy or mommy, then we own them bakery there. So you see why policy is important, well thought out policy. That you not just they come and say something, but and then it left by you not end up for do shopping mall. You build a shopping mall. Well, doesn't that go with the economy? You have to have, a good middle class. People are making money. Okay, they are in employment and can afford it for go shop na the mall. You get forget good energy in terms of light, electricity, for continue for power, that particular ambition day. But so roguish are these elements, in line, sometimes not even from government, but government people, we want recognition, or they hear something. Like another man we like for blog, at one point begin to promote saying they can't open Toyota car plants na salon for assemble motorcar. It's like say something they want to take you for big fool. But we go always challenge these narratives. So now we go back to President Bio in 4.5-year term. One thing very important is there comes a time for scrutiny. It's not time for only propaganda and disinformation. Where you get supporter jihadists then, and use the word not in a literary sense, okay, more metaphorically. Where then they build the airport, and then you go take pictures of the video the airport, which is good, but we see the exaggeration, not very professional, and sometimes you put the government in a bad light, because the reason why you gain access into that airport there, which is under construction, and you're not even fully geared as in protection, shows that you are unprofessional, and the people that will allow you there, they should not have in the first place, but few of them were allowed. But when you go there, there is a different way that you can do it, but you go begin to show toilet, they say, hey, but you see toilet. Can you imagine? How do people take Sierra Leoneans there for be 2023? How? Ferry-cam. Well, of course, all sided do them, take the ferry, picture them and video them and send them out. We are yet for see the ferry, but we don't say the ferry come. What is waiting for, we don't know. There was another one we come where there was argument between whether on a boat or on a ferry. And the conversation is endless. Where is it now? I don't know whether I did Dong River. I don't know. But we'll try to get to the bottom of that. But these are the elements that we look at. The tangibility of your developmental achievements, things that we can touch and feel and use and appreciate. We don't come make boku noise about them. And Sierra Leoneans, we need to stop that, because part of this problem is our problem. And I'm not saying that we only do them, but a few of us, they do them. This is not the obligation of government. Remember, say, first of all, before you lend them, you vote. Because lend now, we can lend them so we can take them back. Now, then story they did in the bring country, I make them can pull in colorful manifesto to them. And these are things that we really need for look at, where people then pull their manifesto. Let we look at their manifesto. Let we look at their track record in public. Let we try for understand them and scrutinize them, because these are things that we can do and understand their sincerity. Let we watch them when they speak in public. Let we watch their expressions, facial and other expression, their verbal intonation, because these people lie wonderfully. Can all these things that they put in a manifesto, where you not expect them to achieve all during a short window if given the opportunity, but waiting and can actually actualize. Who are these people who are saying this? Can they be trusted? Certainly, I believe some of them can be trusted because they mean and love their country and get their country at heart. But you really get the other treacherous one, them, where it's just about lining up their pockets. These are facts. We've seen it over the many years. When President Bio take power, at an inauguration speech to a disappointed and shocked nation, and I say this, a disappointed and shocked nation, because the nation was divided. Why I say so? I mean, we only need to look at the margin where President Bio win with. The margin where President Bio win with. I'm not questioning that margin. I'm just saying, look at the margin. Waiting, this imply is there's a lot of other people on the other side who were disappointed by the results, obviously, because they give their all to their own political party, then turn out not for win. But the winning wasn't landslide. It was narrow. And the president-elect, His Excellency Julius Maada Bio, recognized that. This is important. He recognized that. So much so that in speech writers them for an inaugural address, then put on the say, me, President Bio, I won't be a president for only one Sierra Leone, one side of Sierra Leone. I'll be a president for all Sierra Leone. Again, this is not an opinion, this is not fact. You can go to the government archives, you can go look there, the speech is there. I won't be a president for one Sierra Leone. I will be a president for all Sierra Leone, not for only one type of Sierra Leonean or one region, but all Sierra Leone. I believe 32,000 square miles of us. I hope I get my geography right. It not only stopped there. This president, during the campaign trail, he talked a lot about poverty. He talked about, although, anyway, I will come to that. He talked about a lot about corruption, and rightfully so. He talked a lot about these things: corruption, poverty, and indiscipline. There was too much indiscipline in the country. The previous administration under Anes Baikoroma did recognize that as well. In different aspects, now it make them come up with a very good project called attitudinal change. Because with attitude, it been a help for project a lot of this indiscipline will be happen. So if we were to change our attitude towards we nation, towards we fellow kind, that will make a massive difference in developing we country. By attitude change, respect for one another, respect for law and authority, discipline, discipline, discipline. When ex-brigadier, retired brigadier, His Excellency Julius Maada Bio took over, of course he recognized these things, because when he be even there afar in London, where he resided all those many years, he was watching. One of my friends joke, and we can always laugh over that joke. They say one of the things the way the president in his study while even they abroad, they wait for in calling. Now the All People's Congress, just study them. I make you understand them so much. I mean, I can't stop laughing at that joke. It was meant for light humor. Indiscipline, corruption, now things them way, and poverty, now things them way. When I come to power, I mean, once I don't come to power, so I will have to deal with them. Now we need to ask ourselves these three things. Let me start with corruption, major one. So yes, the last government had elements of corruption, was corrupt, elements of corruption which trigger the president for institute a commission of inquiry. After they do a how you call them? Where Professor Francis, then ask Professor Francis for constitute. Yeah. In other words, for take stock of the past government, the activity them during their stay in government. And the outcome of that stated that all those who served in senior capacity, minister, I think there were 3 levels. I don't forget the other 2, but there were 3 levels certainly. And please feel free for remind me, you know, after the guest talk, because I did actually too. I will come back again to where we'll be there. But this important again, there is a nexus. It leads to they will be convicted. I mean, they will have to face court. And if convicted, will have to face the penalty. The government spent billions of loans at a very critical time in our country. Billions they spend for bringing foreign judges, because apparently 2 things in your opinion. Either our own system is so compromised that they could not be trusted, that they talk about with judiciary system, what I just mentioned earlier on this program, could not be trusted with such a serious case, because probably those who were serving at the time were serving at the behest of ex-president Nkrumah, and probably still got ties and affiliation and etc., etc. So therefore, they could not be trusted. And maybe now he make the president in the infinite wisdom decide for bring foreign judges, Biobel and others, for can conduct this very serious thing of state, the issue of corruption. We don't run rampage, we don't ravage the country for donkey years. Donkey years has ravaged our country. That people can just steal money and disappear and reappear like Magic Man, Professor Agrimo. Disappear and reappear and still forget government job and disappoint their constituents and deprive citizens of that country much needed funds for help develop either the community or the nation as a whole. Remember, social services, it comes at the benefit or to the benefit of the mass population of the people, whether not running water, whether not electricity, whether not good roads for transportation for run, whether not the provision of housing, whether not the provision of incentives and things like that. This, they come at the back of tax money then we then collect, because now they use for provide services for the people. But instead it's being used to line up the pockets of politicians. So when the president come and say this, a lot of people, they appreciate that. Say maybe finally we will put probably not an end to this, because me not be ever see say there will be an end to this. But for mitigate the circumstances, we can make people feel so brazen that when they offer them government job, they're hot and ready. 4.5 years on, I'm not going to go into this. You tell us, you tell the Sierra Leonean people what your thoughts are, what you think. Do a comparative analysis, and then they talk about between 2 governments. I'm talking about the situational. That's what I'm talking about. Because both sides corrupt. So one side comes in with the whole the other side for corruption, massive corruption. Set up bodies, institute legal panels, quote the Constitution, and then make a mockery of the Constitution. Create a parallel force to the Constitution in, of course, not to the creator, and they talk about the ACC, but give the ACC boss more power, and the ACC boss begin for usurp elected parliamentarians, people who were actually elected, begin for usurp them powers, begin for investigate, do parallel investigation with parliament. Imagine that. These are all acts of corruption, by the way. But waiting at the outcome of these corrupt acts, Sierra Leoneans, this is a question for Una. This is time for reflection and inflection, because once again, we are inching slowly into elections, a period when they've started coming back to us again, asking us for lend them the vote, or for let we allow them for retain we vote where we give them. The judgment is upon you. Are you satisfied with the last 4.5 years? No one is going to tell you how you feel, because now you wear the shoes. We just tell you, say, this not the situation we exist. And one of them are the issue of corruption. So we say again, we throw them back to Una. Una tell we then, waiting the president been promised we, whether this is the case or it is not the case. And bearing in mind, let's just provide little context before I move to the next one, that we had, or we still have, an audit services, which is a key component of the democratic process and the structure of government, for whole government accountable for all their deeds, financially, not the country, how they spend the country money, not just they spend fiti fata. If you remember back, the intention was shown earlier on that the intent was questionable, was no good. Remember, a bill was sent to the president. In cabinet meeting, they had an agreement. They discussed it there. That waiting the president spend, or the first 3 top people in the country, should not be accounted for. You see, a lot don't happen in the last 4.5 years, but because we're so traumatized and stressed, we tend to forget, that are one. And secondly, a lot has been happening. So even if na cassette recorder, it runs out. You get C60, you get C90, and now you get gigabytes, and then you get, nano, you name it. You're going to have to need these things for download and upload and store. They went to parliament. Say, the president can spend 50 fata. There was an uproar in the country. An uproar. This time they listen. And then the president save face. Save face. By doing what? By rescinding that decision. I think they sent it to him for sign and say, well, no, I'm not going to sign this. And save face. But I think we're in a cabinet. And then we can contest the people, because you could have said no there. Because you are a president who came on the back of accountability, transparency, and holding a previous government accountable. How then can you not rule by example? Remember the issue of the teachers. There were high-profile politicians who were stealing left, right, and center. And remember the promise, by the COI. The government transitional reports, the recommendations, the way it presents, will trigger the creation of the COI. What actually happened there? Francis Ben Kaifala, bigger high-profile people, where it sort of play blind to. And it's obvious for people and foresee that whilst people from a certain regional background, from a certain party affiliation, were being hounded, humiliated. People that will be in that same category for the action where it do to the other people were not hounded and humiliated. Why? Because they belonged to one region and affiliated to another party. But they both were accused of having committed the same crime. See the inequality, the imbalance there? These observations were made at a very earlier stage. And some of these people continue for serve na government. How could you keep these people in government? And then you want to provide an excuse to us as to why they still serve na government while others were being hounded. Now you begin to see the introduction of this word political witch hunting. Yeah. Now you begin to see the incorporation of the institutions, the last vestiges of the institution, and we left, where then either they try for cleanup and etc. Remember that. Don't ever forget that. And instead of these high-profile thieves being prosecuted, waiting Francis Ben Kaifala do, it takes people of a noble profession, and they talk about teachers. I don't think we've forgotten that, because that was such an eyesore. So ugly was that scene that the president had to weigh in again and save the day. Teachers were paraded in the streets of Freetown around Cotton Tree, when at the center of the city. Not believe itself at the center of the city now, but when we grew up, it was the center of the city, because the city will expand so much more. But it still remains, you're very historic and very center to all of our activities. I didn't decide for parade teachers them. for, for acts of corruption. I'm not saying that they should not be punished. The punishment has to be, it has to be reasonable. It has to be proportional to the crime. But in this case, and I'm not saying that criminal elements and I didn't use this, but this will have been of a criminal nature. But in this case, they were only used as scapegoats. They were only used as scapegoats, while others were being protected. They were sacred cows. Sacred cows. Yes, they were. And these were the beginnings of the upside down nature of waiting the president promised with people in terms of corruption. Remember the case of the Auditor General, a body constituted by the Constitution for keep track and audit government services of money the way that they spend, how then they spend them. So there's a process of accountability in the country, which is part also of the democratic process. Now we country, if we want for both of them, and we want to talk about the MCC report card. This is why in fiscal discipline, we failed woefully. There are many things that happen, but we can cut and short by the Auditor General services. The woman, a distinguished woman, I'm not calling suspension any longer, and this now be one of the most disgraceful, disgusted things the way government do. They hated the guts of this woman so much so that waiting and decide for do now for sack her. Technically, she was sacked. It's been over a year, approaching 2, suspended for actions for being non-professional or thereof. And I'm not making this up. This is what all they said, for being non-professional or thereof. Remember, the Minister of Information, Honorable Abdurrahman Soare, went to the air because, of course, he get for defend the actions of the government, and not only on the local news, but also on international news. I think he was on, definitely was on the BBC. I think he was on CNN or Al Jazeera. Because these things are important. And this is where we become laughing stock, because you can't define it and you need to follow the interview to see how they run rings around the Minister of Information. He's a well-spoken man, but you know, wait, something and they act for defend, bruh. Act for defend. Such was the thing. A fired woman. And on whose basis? Simply because she asks for more accountability and transparency. Now, Salom Fambulen, a man who came to power and promised us that accountability and transparency will be at the height of his administration, that this will not be compromised. I remember the ACC boss, Francis Benkaifala, followed him for a few years because he said so many nice things, so many lovely things, so many good things, so many, fine talk them. That in quest for investigate, I even quote him, I even use some of the quotations them in me profile. In quest for bring justice to Sierra Leone and them, in terms of squashing this corruption, we don't become a culture in our country. He not go hesitate for go any side. And what in this mean, if this leader to even the person will employ him, then definitely he not go hesitate at all. He will take that action and continue for go that direction there. But this sounded more political than reality. I mean, no. I go on for watch because as a young man, a very professional man, I was very enthused by him. Like him to every bit. I mean, professionally, and because again he was young, vibrant, and outspoken. Even when maybe they say some things that will not be righteous, I then agree with them, not agree with them, but try for side and understand with them that some of these things are unbearable because you can get under unbearable pressure. This is what you sign up to, and the president now in friend. We begin to see corruption money the way that they get. Now present and the presenter to the president. Not symbolically, say, Mr. President, this is what I collect, and what have you, now take picture, and then you go into a government account. Instead, a parallel account was created away from the actual government account, the consolidated fund, a different account. Then it become clear to we say, Mr. Kaifala is only there to promote President Bio. In fact, this seemed like a covenant between them because remember, they were pals, even here in London. Even in an interview, I'll play that interview at some point, not today, in another one. And this goes like about 2 years back in Nigeria. He visited a studio, they hosted him, and he said his business, I'm paraphrasing him now, he said in business, now for make sure say the president is returned to power. So now, with a statement of that kind, you see that there is no independence, not so. I mean, let's be realistic. This is what we are saying here. I am not against the president. I supported the president. And to this day, I still support him, but query him and question him. And I will continue for question and be critical about him. When he do something, as a citizen, with civic responsibility, now for ask for more, not to for just sing the praises. And in fact, I don't sing praise because now EU supposed for do. Then on the basis, then the way we elect you for, okay, thank you, Mr. President. What next? Airport, waiting next. A bridge, waiting next. Bakery, waiting next. That is our business. Hold government to account. But the chief auditor general will hold government to account. Simply because they want silence and they don't like the way the woman will go. They fired her. I don't call it suspension anymore. We get a political prisoner. They say they hold on for rape. And this now a leader of an opposition party in the country. And almost everybody is kind of silent, especially the mainstream press. And this is what I'm saying. He continued for language in the jail, going to 3 years. And we know say he was very critical of government. So we see these charges, but of course, if a man rape, then of course the law for taking in due course. But when you go inside the courts of the country and we begin to see twists and turns, and we begin to see motives, because this is what we look at, we don't just get carried away. We look at the people, the way they address the case, the basis on which they address the case in itself, the case file. Then, of course, we can begin run we own independent investigation for understand. We're not just the follow. So we take what the government tell we and take what the other people tell we. So these are the kind of things that have been ongoing. So Salon Fambulem, Una tell we, on the basis of corruption, the fight against corruption, where are we with President Bio? Okay, 5 years is almost upon us. They are going to come to us again. When I say they, I mean in a plural form, all of them, opposition parties. This includes the All People's Congress. Let me go to poverty here quickly. Poverty. Also in that inaugural speech, the president recognized that part of the citizenry of the country were in poverty. Serious poverty. But let me clarify something. I do agree that there are people who were in poverty and poverty was on the up. And there was a reason why it was on the up. Of course, there's always a reason why it was on the up. But in this case, there is a little bit of a difference. And I'm not making the case for the other side. Again, I'm throwing out there what my understanding is, then Una can make the difference. And here is the thing. 11 years of rule saw the economy of Sierra Leone bounce back and was doing quite well. The fundamentals which the late Ahmed Tijan Kaba set, but of course he was a wartime president and therefore was just there to set up the state structure, apparatus, and things like that for the country to move away from that 10 years so of civil strife into something more civil, more democratic, more encompassing, more embracing, and more focused on the development of the country. But many institutions were set, the road, the path was set. And Ernest Koroma could have been one of the luckiest men to inherit that period. Hence, you cannot deny that the period, the transition between Pakaba, the late of blessed memory, and Ernest by Koroma, wasn't a flourishing period. See, this is the thing. When we say something, we just back them up with fact and context. So that transition, the members said, Boku money been the wait. Because we country don't go into war and the international community recognize that and they hold a donor conference for help you for get back on your feet, wipe off some of your debt so there is no pressure, and then give you boku money for help you for put your nation back into sound footing. Now that process there, now he and the schoolmaker inherit. And when he inherits, so you cannot tell me that the population not been flourished, that money not been there, that development not been there. Yes, there were. But you can question, the development, whether it was synthetic or what have you. I don't think so. There was. And the thing here is he had 10 years. So you see, under the first 5 years, because now that can happen, when governments then take over, and especially we depend on donor them, the first 1 or 2 years, donor organizations, and they release money. And they give you all the objectives them and proposals them for let you meet, and they watch you how you they go about things. In other words, then get the earn the pulse and finger on the pulse, just the weight before they remove them or the bottleneck. And the Skuma get a second term. So that second term, he did have programs of his own. This is the difference. He had programs of his own. So some that he inherited from Pakaba in the first 5 years, electricity program or power programs that you want to talk about, institutions that have been designed, some have been set up, funding, and most of them things then he inherit. But even that first term, there are accolades of his own. And remember, the second 5 year, when they initiate from the first policy, the first 5 year, and then the second one. And many other things, whether attitudinal change, whether the war against, but there were 2 major ones. And under the last administration, because some people they either forget or intentionally, and again, like I say from the beginning of this program, some people are actually buying into this nonsense. We all been generally agree, say 5 years is not equal to 10 years plus of a government. Now, new talk don't begin to come out there. And I say, and because I've had this conversation with few people, we actually believe, say, matter be in 5 years, in terms of development, it don't exceed an Escoma in 10 years. This is hogwash. Yeah. Anyway, so it flourished. So many people, and a middle class was created during that flourishing period. I have not been a cell, Wutete. Okay? Although at a cheap rate, we now I think that case did in a court against Dr. Samoa Kamara. We've been the act at the behest of the president. Of course, you know, do them or you not do them on your own. But I think say no explain yourself, say you do them in good faith. Because that's what they had to do then. But then later on decide for sell. You know, yeah, the stocks. And they made a lot of money out of it. And remember, Ebola, now it can damage the Sierra Leonean economy. People can say the fundamentals wasn't strong, but there's a general agreement say the economy was doing well. Now I knew the Minister of Finance. I've sat down with him a few times, and he's told me a thing or two. And I've seen his actions and policies. I'm talking about the former Minister of Finance. His actions and policies initiated by him, very good. He assured me, you know, during a private conversation, that as long as Ebola doesn't go, I think it was in 2014, it doesn't go beyond June, there are appropriation budget-wise, you know, to cushion that shock. They were prepared. But then, unfortunately, it went beyond. Companies left in fear for their lives. Obviously, they will do. They stock for iron ore because there was no production. Everything, you know, you're grounded to a halt. And if not the government is generating money, then obviously there becomes an economic problem, and that affected the country greatly. These are facts, not opinion, by the way. So from that point there, of course, people then begin go into poverty. That's what I was trying to talk about. So when President Bio take over, he say it go fight the war against poverty. But my question to Una Sierra Leonean them, the fight against poverty, let we look at then and let we look at now. What say you? That judgment day is for you, you know, yeah, for make. That judgment day, I repeat, is for you, for make. Now, let's talk about finally the war against indiscipline. I think this guy is still deep on count, and I'll have to leave in the next 2 minutes. But just before I go there, let me have a drink of water. And I promise you now, this is not the final one about President Bio in war against indiscipline. Don't touch that dial. Okay, and we are back today on the 17th of February 2023. It's a Friday. I'm Prince Emil Kroma with a good discussion on the hub of the conversation. My apologies, we supposed to forget this young man, but obviously I'm busy with election material, them counting the votes and ballot papers and etc. So we go get for forgive him, but never mind. He should be back. We'll get a program for Sunday. So hopefully Sunday by 5 o'clock or so my own time. When I keep watch, he will be here. Tomorrow we get the APC elect vice president in North America. That's in the Dallas chapter. Dallas is in Texas, or Texas, Dallas, yeah. Mariatu Kamara, she will be on the program tomorrow, so we'll rub more small about party politics again, and etc. So they were against indiscipline. When President Bill talk about indiscipline, a lot of we buy into that. So you see some of the reason why we thought that this president was going to be exceptional, and we pray that he succeeded. That's in the past now. The reason why so is because, again, the background inside the president come off from. He come off from a military background. That's a fact. And during the military escapade, they did a lot of things. You know how military man can act. And that's not the case. All over when they take over. But there's something we need to know. You need to distinguish between military and civilian rule. These are two different aspects. When military men take over, the constitution is immediately suspended. Habeas corpus, which now we write, is suspended. So therefore, you can get slapped, you can get bullied, you can get kicked, you can get picked up and put in jail. Your right is suspended. This is where we need to be careful. So therefore, now that they do say every Saturday by force, now they clean ya. Nobody know they come on here until after 12 o'clock. Now by decree, and I saw them say, and you arrest your man and they with gun. You have to abide, because why? The constitution is suspended. In a civilian rule, it's the constitution that take precedence over everything. It provides we with rights. So therefore, we can, when somebody do wrong to we get a right for going to court, we get a right for being represented, we get a right for make a case, we can go to police, we can lodge a complaint, the police compel for act, because you have to look after the citizen. Peace and harmony has to prevail. So we miscalculate that, with waiting the president, they do Ian and young colleagues, them, Strasser before him, and then him after Strasser. And then we translate that into when he can have power, and when he say wage war against discipline, which most likely in a soldier man and time down there, anytime when they can have power all over the world, because there's so much indiscipline, and they want to capture the minds of the people. So we believe that. We all did believe that, because we've seen him in action in the past. When they grab na money and go team up na office, you building warehouse, so many government ministries, and see where they come. People have for under the 8 o'clock or before 8. They can't late. When you can't late, then they say go back home, or then put you in a gun. Be big man and woman, and then give you 6 cane of the cane, 6 lashes of the cane. Because you can't imagine. These are all anti-democratic. But that's what was happening. And this inside recycling now we translate, say, well, since this man don't come back to power, we talk about discipline, we can't see him. And yes, then begin them with that dirty business for clear dirty every Saturday. But it didn't work, because people were conscious, and this is a civilian government, say, well, you can't hold we right. You get for ask we, you get for consult with we. The law has to back that up. And this is not the case. So it fizzled out anyway. But here is the thing. And I'm a final question to Una Sierra Leone them. You think, say, President Bill, the war against indiscipline, he succeeded? This is not the question. And he left to Una for make the case. Let's just read few things them. I thank Una for tuning in. Villan, I agree that Bill is a filmman. Agatha Blanco, White Salon celebrating independence, God punish president wasting their money. Agatha Blanco, who APC thief the Ebola money, even per Anes won them. What is good about Anes LPP? That's a good question, sister. Very good question. I will read this last one from a guy called Abu Swari, very long one. If we want peace in the country, we must stop pointing fingers at one another. One way or the other, we are all guilty. My second advice is we should stop the abusive languages against either tribes, and don't forget about the intermarriages taking place in the country. Let's put tribes aside. We are all Sierra Leoneans. I blank that out, and Mr. Swari, next time, for let me hear your program, you know, we need to use that kind of language, and so I just keep over that. I've already got it there, and I hope you take this lesson from this platform. To politics, which has divided us for a long time in our homes. This is the bitter truth. We need to go back to the drawing board and start seeing ourselves as one, or else, I am afraid. I absolutely agree with that sentiment expressed with one word we use. Of course, we need to use profanity in the platform. We're against tribalism. We don't promote tribalism of any kind. But if we see divisiveness, you know, yeah, if we see cronyism, we surely rub much on that. And this is what we do on this platform. So again, we'll not forget for tuning tomorrow. I thank you all for having tuned into the Den Media platform. I hope so we'll go continue for help, for shame. There's nothing personal. This is the hub of the conversation. Until we catch up again at some point tomorrow. Goodbye for now. Still get 110 people still sign on. Goodbye, everyone.